I felt as a child that I had to perform in order to not be rejected. I wanted everything to be perfect because I felt like I needed to keep it up.
Why do you think that environment kind of led you to choose toxic relationships?
I just wanted someone to tell me that I was worthy of love.
Okay.
I still wanted to be good enough.
So I think it's very important for us to talk about the healing.
Yeah.
How does that happen? What needs to take place for healing to happen from rejection? Well, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk, Real Change, where we have real conversations about real issues and a real God, because thank goodness we have God and He can get us through whatever we're going through. And so I really hope and pray that this has been blessing you. In fact, if it has been a blessing to you, please consider following along on whatever platform. Press that follow button, press that subscribe button, like, share, comment, send it to people that you think it might bless them too. And I just pray that God continues to use this platform to really help and minister to people. Well, I'm very excited about today because today we have my big sister, Bonnie Jean, in the house. Bonnie, welcome to Real Talk, Real Change.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a blessing to have you here. I mean, and you're a woman of many talents and people might know you from many different things. You're a mommy.
I am.
You're a grandmommy.
Yes.
You're a singer.
Yes.
You're an artist.
Sommer alle.
Music teacher, worship leader. What am I missing?
Writer. I'm an author. I've recently published my first children's book called Why Mr. Wind Was Late for His Day.
And it's so good. Yeah, we're going to have maybe another podcast and just talk about that whole thing.
Yes, for sure.
So an author now, how's it feel to be called an author?
I think it's wonderful. I really wanted to leave a legacy and I feel like there's a start to that.
Yeah.
So it's something, when you write something down and you have, you can just leave your stories behind. And that's really what it's about. Teaching the next generation, really.
Yeah. I'd also say that you're a bit of a content creator.
Definitely, yeah.
You even have done your own podcast before.
Yes.
So, woman of many talents.
Yes.
So many talents that I know growing up with you, I was very intimidated by you.
I'm sorry.
I absolutely felt like I was invisible. And I had this super talented sister who, from my little lens, you were 4 years ahead of me, was just super good at everything and still stole all the spotlight and the limelight. And, so I just know you ooze talent. God has blessed you with many, many gifts.
He really has.
And I'm very glad to see you still using them for His kingdom. You're really passionate about Jesus and you love His kingdom. And I've always loved it about you. But I think if people had seen us when we were kids, we'd probably be the last kid you would think would be ministering or doing a podcast together.
True.
Or that anyone would even want to listen to, because we're pretty down, out and broken.
We were very broken. I think we grew up in, I suppose, very contradicting environments. On the stage, in front of the public, it was one way, and then at home, behind the scenes, it was another way.
Yeah.
So definitely very traumatic upbringing, I think, for both of us from different degrees, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that I was this super talented and had to do everything right, but I felt as a child that I had to perform in order to not be rejected and not be, I wanted everything to be perfect because I felt like I needed to keep it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where do you think, maybe, for those who don't know our story, how would you tell it? How do you frame our upbringing, our family, and everything that happened there? How did we end up in ministry? We should be the last kids who would want to touch this. So maybe for those
because we saw the good, the bad, and the ugly.
We saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. So maybe for those who don't know, you can tell a little bit about our story. What happened?
Yeah, so our parents were in ministry, and I don't know if they had the right support system. I don't know. I can't judge that. But I think they were thrust into ministry very quickly, and they were very young, very
newly saved also,
and they weren't really given the tools to do what they needed to do.
Yeah,
and I think they were also very broken, both of them from very broken backgrounds, and so that wasn't helpful. because ministry, man, it shines a light on everything.
Mm.
And marriage as well. I mean, I think they were newly married as well. Marriage also shines a light on everything.
Yeah.
So you have these two very broken people coming together, hoping, both of them wanting to make it work, but none of them getting the tools to actually navigate through their brokenness.
Yeah.
And then still being put into ministry. And then you add children to that.
Yeah.
And it's wow.
And so they took over a church. Well, they kind of planted a church at a
Yeah.
very young age. Like you said, they both came from homes that
Very
were
destructive.
full of, suicide, sexual abuse, neglect, abuse, physical abuse, like just mess of homes.
And then they got married.
Newly received Christ. I think they saw each other as the answer.
I think so.
Dived into ministry, and not even in the ministry. They weren't in ministry where they lived with their support structure. They went into ministry in a completely different town, a different province, and things fall apart. So our dad ended up, being caught out in multiple affairs. And do you remember the night where they flee the town?
I do actually remember that. It was a Sunday actually.
So the news came out that dad had affairs with several other women in the church.
Yes.
And
it was announced from stage.
Yeah.
They basically grabbed, I remember mom and dad fetching us from children's church saying we're leaving. And I thought we're going home.
Yeah.
And we actually left the town.
I just remember dad saying, you're not coming back, take whatever you can fit in the car.
Oh, do you remember that?
Yeah.
I don't even remember that.
That's all I remember actually.
I just remember going and thinking, but my friend Louise is there.
Oh, shit.
I mean, and we didn't have cell phones and access to.
It was a complete loss of life as we knew it.
Correct.
We were no longer pastors' kids. We no longer were part of a church community.
Yeah. We literally were ripped out of
lost all our friendships.
In one moment.
Yeah.
Those husbands really wanted to kill him, I think.
And if it was my wife.
Understandably so.
And she had an affair with the pastor, I would have wanted to too. So
yes.
No shame on them.
No.
I understand that
completely
anger.
Understand.
I think that if there's someone who's been ministering to you and counseling to you and ministering to you in marriage, and he's the one doing that, massive emotions, I think, came to the surface. So we fled town in one night. Correct. We didn't go back for years to that town.
No.
And I remember kind of thinking back on it, and you almost saw the ugliness of church and people and politics and hurt in one moment.
Yeah. And I mean, we would see that because we belonged to the family that actually caused the hurt. But we got the back end of that badly.
But then I also remember, which I'm very grateful for, and I think that's probably why I'm in ministry today.
And that's why I'm in ministry today.
We were rescued by another church.
Correct.
Who, in another town, hours away,
they were amazing. I mean,
loved us. They poured so much love into us.
Loved us back to help.
Took us into their home. We lived with them for. They got our parents' jobs. They paid for our school fees. They got us school uniforms.
No, they were amazing.
The church there just showed us unconditional love and really tried to love our parents back.
To be really honest, it's not something you see a lot in this day and age.
But I think through all that, we definitely didn't walk away from that unscathed.
No, not at all.
So when you look back at your life now, what were some of the biggest kind of implications in your life? I know it's mine, but for you, what were some of the biggest results from that divorce and the adultery and the scandal?
Yeah, because later on, my parents did get divorced as well. So I was 12 when the dad walked out, and it rocked my world. It was my first year of high school. So I was just starting standard 6 or grade 8. So he left in December, and in January I was starting high school. And I was an A student up until that point. Prefect, great in leadership, great in, and I was
shining star.
I was a shining star, but that knocked me for wow.
And you and Dad were close.
I was very.
You were closer to Dad than I was.
Yeah,
right. I think I
even considered going with Dad because remember there was a lot of stuff we didn't know as kids.
Yes, we had actually happening.
They did try and protect us from actually what was really happening, and I was very close to Dad.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a healthy close, but I was close.
So I remember becoming quite, even as a young boy, I was 9 at this time, feeling very protective of a mom.
Yeah.
So I remember feeling very someone's got to protect her. I remember after one massive blowout they had, Mom went and cried in the bed. And she didn't know I was there, but I came and stood behind the door, and through the crack of the door, I was just whispering to her, when you get divorced, I'm going with you. I'm going with you. So it was like one of those memories, just watching
It
her,
makes you want to cry.
watching her cry in the bed and just saying, I'll be with you. Like, I'm not going to leave you,
I
so
think that's
had
very
that-
normal for a son to
Yeah.
feel that way.
But I mean, you and Dad had an incredibly close relationship. So I felt like I lost my hero. Like, Dad in my mind was just fun.
He was definitely my hero. And
Yeah.
so when he walked out and he chose someone else above us,
Yeah.
man, that was devastating.
We ended up having not a lot of
Not
contact
at
with
all.
Dad, a lot of court battles. Had it bought into
And I
this
chose,
guy.
in the meantime, I chose actually to stay with you guys because I was
Yep.
protective over you.
Okay.
I felt like, I don't know, there was something, I saw the rejection in you
Okay.
and I got very protective over you.
And we were close.
And I was angry that someone could reject you
Sure.
that way. And you're the reason I stayed. I've always said that to Mom, obviously later on, I'm thankful that I stayed.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were the catalyst for me staying.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think I would have gone.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that I stayed because
I'm grateful you stayed
Yeah.
too. So thank you
Aw,
for doing that. Because I was dealing with so much rejection in my life.
already.
And so I think that would have just been like the nail in the coffin, if you had left as well at that time. So now, I mean, you coming through that, and how do you feel coming through all that? How did it affect you?
So I was very broken, very angry. I didn't want to take advice. Eventually, especially when teenagers hit that 16, 17, 18,
Yeah.
we become something else. And I was really something else.
So you kind of went from this superstar, talented, I can do everything, chosen for everything girl to someone who became a little bit edgy
Yes,
and rebellious,
very.
and kind of like you stepped into some really toxic relationships.
I did.
Why do you think that environment kind of led you to choose toxic relationships?
I just wanted someone to tell me that I was worthy of love.
Okay.
I still wanted to be good enough. And very often, I would look to people for that. So, yes, I have a relationship with God, but it's very broken, right? And God is not necessarily tangible.
Yeah.
But people are. And so I would gravitate towards really unhealthy relationships because they would tell me I'm good enough. And I wouldn't see their agenda.
Why wouldn't you, why weren't good people telling you that you're good enough?
They were, but I think there is there's an attraction to danger in
Okay.
some way. And it's an unhealthy attraction. But it's almost like you want to live on the edge. And I think it's a lack of self-respect, to be very honest.
Okay. So you feel like you're not worthy of
I
love
didn't feel that I was worthy.
from good people.
No,
Okay.
no. So I did choose the toxic relationships, and I didn't see what other people would see. I wanted to find out for myself, but it was really stupid,
Yeah.
immature.
And it does make you stupid. I remember, I know when you were in matric, there was a massive incident where the phone rang one morning, and I remember being in the lounge when the phone rang and Mom answering it, and Mom was saying on the phone to no, I think you had the wrong house. And then Mom put the phone down and she went to go check your room, and she came back and she was like, what's happening? So what actually had happened is that the hospital phoned and said your daughter's in hospital, and Mom was like, no, she's in bed. You have the wrong house. And then she went to your room. So the burglar bars had been removed.
Yeah.
And which made me feel very guilty because I'd actually known that you were doing this, sometimes sneaking out at night with your boyfriend on his motorbike.
Yes.
And it turns out you had been in a motorcycle accident.
Correct.
Very bad.
Yes.
You came back from the hospital, and that was traumatic for me because your whole face was just like broken cheekbones, stitches, swelling, bruising.
A lot of damage.
It was bad. And your boyfriend at the time was also in hospital for a good 6 months, I think, while you guys were matric. It was terrible. So it's almost like this need to be loved by dangerous people just also made you very irresponsible, very stupid,
Very.
make you take risks that I don't think that 12-year-old girl would have done.
No, not at all. I think I wanted almost to feel something. I think, you want to live on the edge, but it's just to like feel again, it's almost like a cry for help in a way.
Sure.
Just to feel something again, to feel alive again, because I had, but at that stage, I was so angry, and we'd been through so much, and there was still a lot of toxicity even in the home.
I remember you and Mom fighting about those relationships and your boyfriends.
Yeah.
And again, I think it was like World War III back in the house. You guys were at each other's throats a lot about your boyfriends and your relationships, and she didn't approve of these things.
Yes.
Is there some part that's enjoying the fact that now this is the way to hurt her back? Or
Yeah, I definitely. It's rebellion.
Yeah.
It's rebellion. So it is punishment to her, but I do think also in some way I was punishing myself as well. I think rebellion is very layered. I don't think it's easy to, I think it's almost like self-harm as well in a way.
Yeah. And then how, so this is happening now, matric, were you in this motorbike accident? Did that wake you up, or did you feel like, did it make you realize you needed to
definitely
work on things?
Actually, when I came out of when I regained consciousness and I saw Mom there, I said to her, I know God gave me a hiding now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Actually, I remember saying those words to her.
Okay. Which is interesting because I know Mom's told the story that the night before, Mom actually told God she's giving up with you and all these relationships, and please just sort her out. Can God sort her out now? And then the next night you had this accident. So, and you felt like God was giving you a hiding. So maybe it was a bit of that.
I knew it was like a wake-up call for me that I needed to sort out. And I just I never went down that road again. I never did that specific thing again.
And yet there was still, even after that, some toxic relationships.
Definitely. I was still in rebellion.
Okay.
It's just I would do it differently.
Yeah. And so, so you feeling like that rebellion was really rooted in your rejection?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think had I been in a loving, safe environment that I would have rebelled to that degree.
Okay.
I do think so much rebellion is rooted in rejection.
Okay, so looking back, what would you say then was the effects of rejection? Because you're saying rejection really was the cause of that rebellion.
Yeah.
So what was the effect of rejection in your life then?
Sure.
And how did that play out in your relationships?
Like so badly. I think I definitely struggled with love. I struggled with trust. Actually did not trust anybody because the people who were supposed to have been looking after me hurt me the most.
Yeah.
And so as a result, I definitely built up a wall with that. I struggled with even self-rejection because like if the very people who birthed me and who fathered me couldn't love me properly, then, am I even worthy of love?
Okay.
And then obviously I had relationships also that rejected me. It's almost like I drew that out of people because I was looking in all the wrong places, in all these broken people also for approval. But again, it was self-sabotage for sure. So I did find that I sabotaged and hurt myself more and more and more.
Okay.
It was a very painful place actually to be for me.
It's funny you talk about how it kind of draws rejection out of people.
Yeah, it does.
I've also had this whole kind of rejection journey. Really struggled with rejection. I felt my whole life.
I remember that.
Back then you're like the only kid who's got divorced parents. Like, it was a
very
rare thing.
Taboo.
Yeah, it was very taboo. And then there was a scandal around how it all happened, and
it was in the papers.
Was in papers, so
hectic.
I felt like such an outcast. I felt very rejected by Dad. Like he had walked away and chosen another family.
Yeah, I felt the same.
It completely robbed me of my confidence. I remember being cripplingly shy. People find it very hard to believe now. Rejection does all these weird things. Like you leave a conversation and then you're playing over that conversation 100 times. Like,
what did I say wrong? Did I say everything wrong?
Do they still like me?
Yes.
So
funny enough, I had the same.
Yeah.
But I responded to it differently.
Okay.
So I put myself out there more because I think in nature I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
more than a flight or freeze. I will fight. So I attacked that as best as I knew how. So I put myself
What I
out.
found as well is that I had such a low. So as I'm growing up, becoming a teenager, now an adult, having a family, a toxic trait that I saw rejection breed in me is that I would punish you for rejecting me. So you reject me, that's cool. But then it was like an over exaggerated response from my side. So if I felt like rejection from you, it would be like completely shut down. I could walk away from this relationship
So I had
really
the same
easily.
response, eh?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, don't reject me because
I would
then,
never
like,
deal with that.
mm-mm.
I would just cut you off.
I found it very easy. Like,
Yeah.
and like sometimes I think I cut off because eventually I did develop friendships, and in high school I had great friendships, varsity, but I would walk away if I got a sense like, oh, you invited everyone out, but I didn't get invited. It's like, we're done.
Yeah.
Like I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I would punish you almost for even thinking.
It's a
And
survival.
often it was
It's a survival mechanism.
yeah, because you just don't want the feeling anymore. So often so much of that was, I realized now, perceived. It wasn't even real rejection.
Yeah.
So I'm just rejecting people left, right, walking away from relationships because I'm like, I'm not going to tolerate that in my life, So it is a bit of a defense mechanism. So it's so toxic when you have a rejection wound. You're being needy, or you're overconfident, or you're inauthentic, or you're showing perfection. You're cutting off relationships. I remember finding it very hard to miss people.
Yeah.
Like I found it very hard to miss people. Like when people would say they miss you, I'm like, why would you? So it was this almost detachment of, I'm not going to get that close that I'll miss you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I understand that so well because having people walk out of my life, so many people that were prominent for me and that were they were supposed to speak into my life and look after me. Yeah, that's also, I was like, well, if you're going to leave, then leave.
yeah,
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah.
And I just I'll show you I'll survive, and I'll prove to you that I
Yeah.
can make it without you. So
100%.
just a
a lot of like
attitude.
manipulation and passive aggressive moves.
Yes.
Yeah.
much.
So I think, I can see that now, obviously, as I'm speaking to people
Yeah.
about their rejection issues. You can see it so clearly, but when you're in that, it just feels normal. It feels like
Yeah.
this is how I should respond. And
True.
you are worthy
And
of
the world
losing
out
me.
there actually will say to you, well, it's understandable.
Yeah. Like
Yes.
I hate those posts on
Yeah.
Facebook and stuff where they're like, someone hurts you, just turn your back, dust your
Yes.
feet, like
It's
close the
not
door.
realistic.
And it's
That
not
thing-
Christian.
It's going to bite you. It's going to bite you in the back. for
And
sure.
like we're called to love people regardless
Yes,
of what they do.
regardless of absolutely.
So then you eventually, you get married, you become a mother.
Mm.
How's that rejection wound affecting your marriage, your family?
Yeah. No. So I've been married twice. I'm in my second marriage. It's a lot better than my first, but I do have compassion, I think, on my first husband, because I don't think he realized what he signed up for. Okay.
Yeah.
To be very honest, both of us were also broken, and we had our stuff from our childhood, but I don't think either one of us realized how much stuff I actually carried into the relationship. From my side, I can't speak for him, but
Yeah.
from me, I know I was so wounded. And I had no clue. I actually thought, he's rescuing me from my life and it's going to be happily ever after. I think a lot of people think that about marriage.
Okay.
But it was not the case.
What they don't realize about marriage is that marriage by design will bring out all your trauma.
Yes, it's supposed to.
It's actually for your holiness,
Yes.
right? God's not really giving you a spouse for your happiness.
No.
He's giving you that one person that's going to make you deal with your
Yes.
stuff, make you
Yes.
address your stuff.
Yeah.
So those people who see marriage as like an escape and, I can get out this house or I can get out this town. What you don't realize is whatever you leave with, all your emotional brokenness and baggage, what you leave with is what you enter the next phase with.
Yes.
It doesn't just go away.
And that's true even for people who are church hopping.
Yes. Yeah. Anytime.
We've seen that, yeah. If you leave with issues, you enter the next place with issues. You can't
So how do you
undo.
feel like it affected that marriage?
So I was desperate to get out of the house, and I don't think that, I didn't listen to counsel again. I definitely still had rebellion. So starting a relationship or a marriage in rebellion is not
Yeah.
I definitely advise.
And like, you're not going to tell me what to do.
You're not going to tell me, I'll prove you all wrong. So that again, it's like, I'll prove you all wrong. None of you know, I don't feel loved by you, so I'm not going to take your advice. Because that was really, I didn't feel loved or cherished or looked after. Someone though this guy is going to look after me, and he's going to take care of me. And so to hell with everybody. And very soon after I got married, I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done?
Sure.
And and I'm sure he felt the same way.
Yeah.
I really do, because I don't think, like I say, he knew he really inherited a firecracker.
Okay.
I was very emotional. I couldn't understand all these emotions. I was very jealous, and very insecure.
So the rejection became insecurity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And trust. I mean, I did not trust anybody. The trust issue was a real thing for me. In fact, over all the years, I think that's one of the biggest things I've had to deal with is learning to trust.
Okay.
And learning to heal in that area of my life. But wow, I was a handful. And I thought having a child would fix that. And again, a lot of people think that having children is going to fix stuff. But I promise you, it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
So whatever you haven't dealt with when you have children, it's 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And I just think both of us needed to deal with stuff. And both of us were trying to make sense of what was going on. And I eventually went to see one of my pastors, and I just said, listen, I'm struggling. I don't know what I'm doing. And they referred me to a counselor, and I started seeing her on a regular basis and started to make sense and realized I had so much wounding from my childhood, and started to heal and started to, pursue my healing.
Okay.
And I think that's where, for us, our marriage started to go in opposite directions.
Okay.
So
how many years before that marriage?
7.
7 years before that marriage
years.
packed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember God saying to me, the cycle of rebellion is over.
Okay.
7 years. And he said to me, you can either listen to me and face your stuff, or you can enter another 7 years of rebellion.
Sure.
And I was like,
I'm going to face it.
No, I'd rather face it. Yeah. It's almost like God used that marriage to break down the walls of resistance towards actually really healing.
What I find sad now is that majority of homes are growing up with our story.
Yes.
So much adultery, so much godlessness. Like at least we had, no matter what we were going through, we went to church, we were always in community, we love God, that was taught in our house. But there's a lot of godlessness, a lot of divorce, a lot of second, third, fourth marriage divorces.
That's right.
A lot of cohabiting without marriage. So I think a lot of people listening would know what deep rejection feels like. Yeah. And maybe as we've been speaking, they could identify in themselves, okay, some of the behavior that they've also been exhibiting that maybe they haven't understood, which maybe they can see now, okay, perhaps there's rejection wounds. So I think it's very important for us to talk about the healing.
Yeah.
How does that happen? What needs to take place for healing to happen from rejection?
I think you got to be honest with yourself first. I like I say, I started going to a counselor, and she really, she was amazing for me. And I saw many people over the years. I realized they need a lot of help. I'd rather ask. I'm in the place now where I'd rather ask for help before I don't ask for help, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just reach that place. If I see there's something brewing and God and I can't sort it out, I go for counsel.
Yeah.
I think to me it's a strength now.
Yes.
To ask for help.
I agree. I think it's so good to run towards counseling, to get to that place where you realize.
Ask for help, sort it out.
Counseling is biblical.
Yes.
Going for wise counsel we're told to do that in scripture. Yes. It's a biblical concept. It's not a bad thing. We should seek wise counsel.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely a big part of this healing. But what needs to happen in that counseling?
Firstly, I think you have to be honest with yourself. Admit that you need help. That's number one. Because if you don't admit it, you can go to as many counselors as you.
Yeah.
And nothing's going to change. If you really want change, admit that you are the one who's the problem, actually. Because what I had to take accountability for me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that everybody else involved in my life didn't do something wrong. But I did also do something wrong.
Well, this is something I've learned because I was so broken. I look back now, I'm sure. And I think there's still parts of brokenness I'm dealing with. But something I've learned is that I might not have chosen to be broken, but I do choose whether I stay broken.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
People break us, they hurt us, and we don't have control over that. But once we've realized, okay, there's brokenness in our lives, we really are accountable to saying, am I going to stay here?
Yeah.
Or am I going to go pursue healing?
Yeah.
And like, we just got to know healing's possible. But I think that's where we go back to victimhood.
Yes.
Is when you believe either I'll never get better or I'll never get healed.
And
or it's not really
I played the victim card for a long time.
Yeah.
And then eventually God is like, do you want to stay like this? That's exactly it. But do you want to change? No, I want to change. Well, then you stop being the victim and take accountability. What part did you play in the breakdown of your marriage? Because that was hard for me.
Yeah.
Realizing that, hey, I had a part to play. It was easy to be the victim for me until God challenged that thought process. And then going to just be honest about that and working through like, what did I need to be accountable of? And this is where I realized I'd taken all that brokenness into that marriage and really brought out the same brokenness.
Sure.
Because the same thing that happened in my childhood was exactly what happened in my first marriage. And so realizing that I almost the perpetrator. Not that that's the case, because I mean there are two sides to the story, right?
But you could see that
but I definitely brought
that.
I definitely had to own it.
Yeah.
I had to own my part in it.
So explain what that counting process looks like. So, you're saying you've got to go speak and be honest, but what's happening in that counseling journey for you that's leading you towards healing?
I think admitting what I really was feeling about myself, admitting what I really was feeling about others, recognizing the trust that I struggled with trust, recognizing that and processing this with the counselor, talking through that, praying through that, forgiving.
Okay.
The forgiveness was honestly the door to freedom for me.
Okay.
So forgiving dad, forgiving mom, forgiving all those people that broke my heart, forgiving my first husband, forgiving all those people that had damaged me in some way, that had broken the trust, and then being willing to trust again. Wow. That was, I think, probably the hardest part of the journey.
Sure.
And still sometimes is. Because the trust thing will come up.
Yeah.
In any relationship, no person can be perfect. Someone's going to break my heart at some point. That's life. Relationships are hard and they're messy. You said that to me before as well. Like relationships are messy. And so just choosing to trust again, choosing to trust God with those people and love them all out and hold nothing back and to be really authentic. Because I was really scared actually to be authentic like you.
Yeah.
So I put up this mask. Everything's perfect. Everything's in place. But to say, okay,
it's very hard to
remove that mask.
Very hard to connect.
Yeah.
With someone like that.
So we remove that mask, and now this is who you are. And actually, I've become a lot more colorful and expressive the more I've healed, because that's actually who I really am.
Okay.
And initially, I was scared to be myself. I was scared to really be that person that maybe does stand out. Ironically, to you, I did stand out, but to me, I knew there was a lot more to that.
Yeah.
And now to just be free to be myself, and to live authentically, that's been the greatest journey for me, I think, coming out of this.
I think for me, in that, very much what you said, but one more thing I'd add is really finding my identity in Christ.
Yes.
I think
only God can identify you.
Yeah. Really starting to get that revelation. So it's like not just head knowledge, but like you feel it, like that I have a God who sees me.
Yes.
He loves me deeply. He thinks about me all the time. Like Psalm 139 has in my adult life been such a psalm of comfort to know that God, he knew me before I was born. He formed me in my mother's womb. He thinks about me more than his thoughts toward me outnumber the grains of sand on the earth. That when he looks at me, he thinks I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, that I can't hide from his presence. So that kind of truth, when I started to actually believe it, it helps you put yourself out there, because the only way to have great relationship is to make yourself open for rejection.
Yes.
If
True.
you're not willing to put yourself out there, so there's they say 5 levels of communication. That first level, the lowest level, is cliche conversation, like hello, how are you?
Yes.
Fine, how are you? We learn nothing from each other.
Mm.
So that's not a building block for relationship, and there's no way to reject that.
Mm.
That's why a lot of people stay there, right?
Mm.
Then you get your second level, which is I'm reporting facts about people. Okay, so we're having a conversation where we're just talking about the kids or about work or about. And that's very deceitful, because we can have a lot of talking,
Yes.
but there's no connection.
There's no depth.
Because you can't reject me. Like a lot of work colleagues, they might even pass away and you hardly feel sad when you're like, I worked with this person for years, but I don't feel sad. Well, your heart wasn't invested because it was just reporting.
Yeah.
And then you get to the third level where I'm actually willing to share with you my ideas and my judgments and my insights. And for the first time, I'm putting myself out for rejection, because now you can say to me, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Why do you think that? You're wrong. Okay. But that's the first time we're even starting to build any kind of friendship or relationship. Then we get to that fourth level where I'm willing to share with you my emotions. Very hard. I'm willing to tell you I'm upset, I'm irritated, I'm frustrated. I'm using all these feeling words, right? And then the fifth level is unfiltered. I think it, I say it. I'm completely safe. There's no shame.
And that's rare, hey?
That's a level of communication I believe God wants for marriage.
Yes.
Like Adam and Eve were naked and they felt no shame. That's an important thing. I'm completely naked, not just physically, but with my mind. I'm completely naked with my emotions, and you're not shaming me. I can tell you anything. So that's a goal, right? But the sad truth about that is that I can have cliche conversation and there's no connection. I can report all day long, talk about everyone else, talk about famous people and celebrities and TV shows. But until I'm willing to say, hey, this is my idea, this is my judgment, this is my thought, or these are my emotions, we can't connect. Yeah. There's no intertwining of our lives,
of our ideas.
So I actually have to first put myself up for rejection before we can have closeness.
Yeah.
And when you have a rejection wound, you're not willing to do that, because you've learned that if I share my ideas or my emotions, that you will reject me.
Yeah. So we try and control the environment. We try and control the relationship. I found that was also something I was doing, was trying to control the outcome, trying to control. So I'm going to say what you want so that you don't reject me. So I wasn't being authentic, which would betray me, because authenticity is actually one of the most important things to me.
Yes.
So then I'd be, again, betraying myself. So all of that had to come to the surface, and realize that, like, there was a lot that I need to really bring to God and say, God, I'm sorry. I want to do this, but I just don't know how to do it.
Sure.
And it's literally one step at a time. Today, I'm going to do better than I did yesterday.
Do you still find that rejection plays a part in your life?
It knocks at the door.
Okay.
Every now and then. It's a lot better because I know what it looks like now.
Okay. So those in the thick of it, you believe there's hope?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But there's only hope if you're willing to face it.
And with God.
Yes.
I actually don't think there's a way, even the best psychologists.
You can't get it with
that
God.
identity that you need to get, for me, that really is like the clincher, right? Like, even your ability to forgive those who have hurt you, it only comes
God.
when you realize I'm a forgiven one. Like, I've been forgiven so much. Like, it's really seeing yourself how God sees you that enables you to now love freely, and love even if you're going to get hurt, and love even if you're going to be rejected, right? But like you said, I've seen in my life, it still knocks on the door.
It does.
Yeah. But it's so much better.
Yeah.
There's so much
better.
So much healing.
And even like the trust issues, but now I'll say to Jean-Marc,
who's your husband?
Who's my husband? Yeah, for those who don't know. But I'll say to him now, I'm struggling with trust in that. So I recognize it, and I call it. I've seen. But now also
you've actually, even saying that,
just deflated the whole thing.
And you're communicating at a very high level.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you're putting yourself out there, just saying I'm starting with trust. You can be rejected to say, why don't you trust? And that's but you're being vulnerable even in just saying that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's not breeding rejection.
No.
Yeah.
Amazingly enough, I have found, as I've healed and as I've been very honest about really what I'm feeling, it actually has deepened relationships. It has
100%.
not brought rejection.
Yeah.
And even when it does appear to be rejection, I also have to realize that sometimes what I have to say might be hurtful to the other person. But got to let them also experience that and deal with that. And that takes, again, it is talking to God. I mean, I talk to God about my emotions a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Me too.
Funny enough, just even this morning, I woke up in you wake up in like the weird side of the bed. And I had to speak to myself and say, no, Bonnie, greater is he that is in you than he was in the world. And you will not, this is going to be a good day.
Yeah.
So I've learned just in a lot of aspects of my life to talk to myself. David spoke to himself all the time. And to talk to myself and to remind myself of who I am and whose I am.
Yeah.
I don't need to fall into a negative cycle because I have Christ in me. And through Christ, I can do anything. And so it's really helped me. But again, like you're saying, only God can bring you to that.
100%. So one thing as we close, I just really reminded me of, again, my story. It's funny that God's put me in ministry because I find ministry to be quite a rejection-rich environment.
Yeah.
Like it really,
yeah.
There's a lot of, from the outside, I think it can look quite glossy and glamorous and rosy, but really there's a lot of rejection because you're trying to do what pleases God, and it often doesn't please people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are often like not happy. But something I've really come to realize that brought healing for me when it came to rejection, because when you have a rejection wound, you're desperate for people to like you. You're desperate for them to accept you. But then how can you do ministry?
Yeah, you can't.
Right, you can't, because ministry is not about pleasing.
Because you're looking at the people, not God. Yeah.
So it comes right back to that identity for me, where I've really had to get to the place where if someone's very unhappy with something I've done or a decision or something I've said, I actually again go picture myself in front of God, my Father. And if in front of God, I'm okay with that decision.
Yeah.
Like if I feel like, God, I did that for you. My motives were good. And I did that from a place of sincerity. Like I made that decision because I felt you would be pleased. Then suddenly I don't care what people think.
Yes.
It like gives you so much confidence to be like, actually, it's okay that people don't like me or people reject me. I mean, you look at also something that really helped me. You look at most elections in the world, government elections. And these are the best leaders in the world.
Yeah.
Most of them are won by maybe 1 or 2%.
Yeah.
So your best leaders in the world are maybe getting 51, 52% of the votes. If they're lucky, right? Which means even the best leaders of the world, at the most, only half the people like them.
Yeah. Well, this is something that Jean-Marc has said to me a lot.
Yeah.
You get 3 types of people in the world. Those who like you, those who hate you, and those who just don't care.
Sure.
And if you can make peace with that, really make peace with that, you actually will do very well.
Wow.
And I think that's helped me a lot as well, because I'm also in the public and I'm very different to what, I think I do great people, not intentionally, but I'm very different to your normal.
Yeah, whatever normal is.
The normal box, right? I don't have a box. I don't even know what the box looks like. But I'm realizing the more and more authentic I'm becoming, the more bold and out there I'm becoming.
Yeah.
But God created me for that. And I've had to make peace with the fact that not everybody's going to like that.
Yes.
Or
like
that.
you.
Yeah. And it's amazing because the very thing that the enemy tried to use to silence me is the thing that now God is using to advance his kingdom. So I struggled very much to put myself out there. It had to be perfect.
Sure.
It had to look a certain way. Where now, I can put myself out there and make the mistakes, but God is doing what he's doing. Like, I'm not as concerned about it as I used to be. And I think becoming more authentic has been such an important part of that journey.
Yeah. Well, and thanks for being authentic and open even today, because I know some of these things, really need to be said.
Yeah.
I think there is a rejection epidemic, you could almost say.
Yeah.
There's so many people struggling. They don't even know they're toxic.
Yeah.
They don't even know that they super needy or that they don't have identity. So,
Yeah.
I think when we've walked that road, you can spot it
Yeah.
in other people much
From a
easier,
mile away.
from a mile away.
Yeah.
So we know how important this healing is.
Yeah.
And I just want you to say a prayer for people who are listening. Maybe they're ready to start getting honest with themselves, and they realize they've got some deep rejection wound, and they're going to have to go on this journey of really finding that healing, which we know isn't an easy journey.
Yeah, it's not an easy journey. Yeah.
So can you just pray for those who are in that space now?
Definitely. Father God, I just want to lift up every single person that's listening to this podcast. And I pray, Lord God, specifically for those who have struggled so much with rejection, whether it be self-rejection, rejection from others, self-loathing, people that are struggling with the self-image. Lord, all these things are things that Jesus died for and won the victory for on the cross.
Yeah.
And I pray, Lord, that you'd help them to get honest with themselves. Help them to get honest with what they really think about themselves and to find your word in it. I just hear the Father actually say, I have not rejected you.
Yeah.
I've called you by name, you are mine. And I pray, Father God, that even those words, as they hear it, that they belong to you, that you know them, you love them, you've called them, you have not rejected them. I pray, Lord, that those would be words of life for them and words of healing. And I speak healing and I speak life and identity over every single person that is listening. I pray that they would find you in the dark places. They would allow you into those places where they've been so wounded. And they would allow the healing power of Jesus to just flow through every crevice, every crack, everything. I even see walls that need to be broken down. And I pray that those walls will come down. I bring every single person to you. And I thank you that there is hope in Jesus and that this is why you came. I pray, Lord, also for those who maybe have been afraid to be themselves. I pray that they would find their identity and strength in you to stand up and be who you've called them to be. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Well, Bonnie, thank you so much just for your openness and your vulnerability today. And I know it's going to minister to a lot of people. And just thank you guys for joining us again. If this show is blessing you, if it's something that is ministering to you or helping people please don't forget to support us. It keeps it going. So follow us, subscribe, like, do all those good things. Share it with people that maybe need to hear this as we continue to have very real conversations about real issues and a real God. I hope it blesses you, and we'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.